Hi there, Dee Mann, Student Placement Manager at ACAP, with another in the series of videos that I've done for Wise Employment. This time I'd like to focus on the purpose of your placement at Wise. Now, as you are well aware, because you've either been selected for or you've already commenced your placement with Wise Employment, the main reason that Wise Employment want to have student counsellors working with them is to help support the clients in their return to work. Okay, now that's your context, and the entire time you're there at Wise, that needs to be in the back of your mind as to the context for all of your work with clients. Right? Ultimately, that's the whole reason Wise exists, and that's the reason for your placement. So, but as a counsellor, you're also aware, particularly someone who's trained as a person-centred counsellor, you're also aware that we can never quite tell what it is that the barrier to that return to employment really is. So it may look like something on the surface, but as a counsellor, and because you offer them confidentiality, and you need to see them often enough to really trust you, they may well disclose something to you in a counselling session to work on that they're not going to tell Wise Employment about because for whatever reason that may be. So your job is to function as a person-centred counsellor, just as you've been trained. So allow the client to lead the sessions. Right? But that doesn't mean allow the client to lead you off down a garden path that's really not related. Now, it may be an important issue for the client. It may be a key reason for the client's depression, right? Then that's absolutely essential that you work with the client on that area. But it's a tricky one. There's a line there that you need to be guided by, but not driven by. So when you see a client for the first time, you may open up a conversation about the kinds of things you can assist the client with. Right? So rather than saying, for example, well, I can assist you with your health and fitness, or I could assist you with your whatever it might be, it would be wise for you to say to the client, you know, I can assist you with helping with those barriers that have been in the way of preventing you from returning to work. Sorry, let me say that again. I can assist you, I can support you and help you to work through any barriers that are in the way of you returning to work, right? So you might start off with a question like, how do you feel about returning to work? And go from there, okay? Now, it doesn't mean that your entire session all of your sessions need to be rigidly focused on what's going to get you back to work. That's your starting point. And then the client will guide you or inform you about how the issue, what the thing is or the things that are in their way of returning to work, and then you will explore those. Okay, so it's a difficult line to walk, and it's more about your context rather than the content of what happens in your session. Okay, so talk to your clinical supervisor about how to manage that line. It's difficult because ideally, we'd like to say be guided by the client and follow the client in exploring what their needs are. And that is exactly what you're going to do. But there's just this one extra piece for you to have in the back of your mind, which is, will the working on or the resolution of this issue that we're doing this work on contribute in some way to the client being able to return to work. Right? Now, I'll give you an example of how nefarious it could be. So you may, in your discussions with a client, you may start off with a mindfulness session and then they get to like you and trust you. And then you might say, you know, so you've been in the yellow group now for about 6 months. So I know that you're ready to return to work. But I know, you know, maybe you'd like to talk to me about what's really going on that's preventing you from returning to work, right? It's confidential. I'm not going to tell Wise Employment what you spoke to me about. So is there some way that I can help you with anything that you would rather that Wise Employment maybe not know about? Okay, it could be that way. And then you might discover along the way that, you know, it's unresolved grief. So, for example, you know, the loss of a parent or the loss of a child, and it could be 5 years ago, it could be 10 years ago, but they're so caught in their grief that they're, you know, really in very deep grief, and that's one of the underlying things that's preventing them being able to return to work. So that's what I mean about you just never know. So I'm not saying you have to keep all of your conversations focused on getting them back to work now. What I'm saying is your context back here is, I wonder if that's one of the barriers that could be in the way. Her self-esteem is very low, right? Let's explore that and see how that's impacting it. It could be she's terrified of interviews, you know, because her self-esteem is so low. She may believe that fundamentally she's stupid and can't succeed. So those are issues that could be underlying the presenting issues, all right? So there's a lot of work for you to do there. No one can give you a hard and fast rule for how to do it, but it is important that you do keep in mind that the ultimate goal for this client and the thing that will make a significant difference for them probably in their lifestyle and their life outcomes is being able to return to work, okay? So if you've got questions about that, you really need to speak to your clinical supervisor as your first guide, but you're also welcome to call your placement coordinator or myself if you need to clarify it further. Like if you're really unclear about how to have a context but still be person-centred and follow the client's lead, right? So your clinical supervisor is the person to guide you about that. I'm not the best person to guide you about that. They are. But I'm happy to help you and make some suggestions if that's what you need. So please, utilise your clinical supervisors. This is not something that you would talk to your Wise employment consultant about or your supervisor at Wise, because it's a counselling matter, okay? So you could talk to your placement coordinator, but really the ideal person to guide you here is your clinical supervisor. So make full use of your clinical supervisor. All right, I hope that's been helpful in just letting you know about that context for your placement and how to try to navigate around that. But if you're really confused or if it's like, no, I'm not clear, then clinical supervisor is the next step for you. All right, good luck with your placement. Thank you.